and we're going to make a start on today's topic. So today's topic is about facing fear, and fear is a whole bunch of things. So we can have fear of a spider, we can have fear of death, we can have fear of losing loved ones, we can have a fear of speaking in public audiences, just whatever. There's lots of different fears. So I want you to think about, just in the next few minutes, to think about a situation that you're either in or have been in, or that's kind of a repeated pattern. And I talked about anxiety on last week sometime. And anxiety and fear are very well linked together. And in fact, like anxiety attack is about panic, a fear of dying, a fear of whatever is going to happen is happening. So it's this kind of overwhelming sense of fear. So if you do suffer from anxiety problems, this will be really another tool to try and manage that. Okay, so before we get into that, if we just warm up some moving the head. And rolling to the other side. And maybe leaning it to one side. If we want a deeper stretch, we can stretch the opposite arm out. And then the other way. And rolling the shoulders back. Probably have lots of crinkles. I used to know what that was, or creaks. In yoga they tell us why. It's something, some liquid overnight, or some joint or something, must be liquid, but it pools in one place. So in the morning you always have more of that until you start moving. That's why yoga's good in the morning. Twisting from side to side, either holding it or moving around. And then arching the back towards the back of the room. Pulling the chest forward, releasing the head. If we need to, we can shake out the legs, or as I'm talking, you can keep moving. Do a little bit of an introduction because we haven't done a meditation on fear yet. So, what is fear, first of all? Well, fear is an unpleasant feeling of a perceived risk or danger, and that can be real or not. So if we think about in the hunter-gatherer times, there was a fear if they would see like a wild animal, there was a fear that they would be attacked by that animal. So that's legit, right? And then like being afraid of daddy long legs, a non-poison, I don't know if there's any poisonous ones, but just to clarify, a non-poisonous daddy long leg, like, really? Is that gonna kill us, cause us harm? It's an irrational fear, so we get a bit of both. And fear can be a healthy thing, and it can be, most of the time it's an unhealthy thing, but fear can definitely be a healthy thing. As the example I just gave, but also from a Buddhist perspective, fear is healthy in that, like most religions, there is an element of fear in the basis, and the fear is that if we don't try to embrace this concept of love and compassion, that all of us will be suffering until the end of time. So sometimes fear can project us to do good things. From a personal example, well, a lot of people always say that I'm really brave, and I'm just like, whatever, I'm not, because I live life in fear. Like, my life is constantly changing. I'm even afraid now of like being in the same spot right now and liking it. Like, that's a ridiculous fear to have, but I'm just like, oh God. But anyway, like, generally I just do everything because I have to, because I want to be happy. I am my own warrior for happiness, and I struggle, and I have panic attacks, and I fear quite a lot of things, but I know that if I don't do it, then I'm going to get stuck in this stagnant spot that's going to make me really unhappy, because I've been there before and it's miserable. So I do whatever I need to do to change it, even if it is facing a big fear. Like the whole reason why I'm here now is because when I was living in London, working in my career as in the probation service doing group therapy, I hated it. And I used to ride my bike to work every morning, and I started just thinking, God, I wish one of those buses would hit me. And this is in London, so quite possible. I just wish. And I would just, like I would hear a bus behind me and I'm not really, be aware of it and just like, oh, please. And that fear, I was like, why am I thinking this way? That fear provoked me to change my lifestyle completely. I took a sabbatical and now I'm here. I never went back. Well, I went back to the job to quit and get that last month's salary, and then I never looked back and I never will. So that was a good thing for me, because had I not been afraid of my thinking on a daily basis, I may have been hit by a bus or worse, or I would still be miserable there, not loving life. So, that's why I face fears. I think it's very healthy. Okay, so in Western society, we're taught to be afraid of lots of different things. We're taught to be afraid of the unknown. Hence, why would you move? Or that saying, I'm going to get it wrong, but why search for a better bar when you're in a good one? I totally messed that up, but because there could be a better one. How do you know that's the best? So we explore. We're also taught to be afraid of change. So people don't like to move. They don't like to break up with partners. They don't like to move house, move country, whatever it is. Fear of death, fear of loss, and fear of pain. So we don't want to lose things. We don't want to lose material objects. We don't want to lose friendships. We don't want to lose partners. So pain, do anything not to experience pain. Well, all of these things are actually inevitable of life. At some point, we're going to experience pain, whether it's emotional or physical. At some point, a loved one is going to die, as are we. The unknown is out there all of the time. I don't know what's going to happen when I turn the corner out leaving my house, because I can't see it from here. There could be some guy with a knife about to attack me. I don't know. So why should I live life in fear? There could also be like this really sweet little doggy that just becomes my lifelong pet. It's ridiculous that we are taught to fear that. And notice I said in Western society, because in these Buddhist cultures and societies, they are taught, like the fear that they are taught is the fear of not becoming enlightened, of not embracing this element of loving kindness. And I know people have lots of different views on that, as do I, because I don't think anybody should be invoked to do anything in fear. But I guess if it helps you and gives you a relaxed life, then maybe it's not such a bad thing, but different topic. Okay, so fear functions to make us alert and ready for action. So we protect ourselves from suffering. So that's very real if we are in a new environment. If we go to, I'm reading a book about Fiji now, like back in the 1800s, where the cannibals were still very active. So if we're back in those times and we're sailors landing on an island that we know is known for its cannibalism, we're obviously going to have a high level of fear, be on alert to either attack back or run back to the boat and leave. That little spider that's over there, or a non-biting fly that people are afraid of, or being in a small confined space that's ventilated, these are very rational. These are very real fears that many people have, but very rational, because we're not going to die in a small room with air. That's just, we may feel like we're going to, but it's not going to happen. It's not realistic. So as in many of these concepts that I talk about, this is all in our mind. We do this. I mean, I remember when I lived here, first moved here, and I was here for 10 days with my ex-partner. And when he left, like 2 days, I knew he was leaving. It was, arranged before he even came here. And like 2 or 3 days before he left, I was just so convinced that there was going to be a guy staring in the bedroom window, or I have a window right in front of me right now in the lounge. And, just with this creepy smile watching me, probably with a knife. And it was so ridiculous, and it's just the fear of the unknown, the fear of him leaving. Now I'm in this lockdown all by myself. What's that going to look like? Am I safe here? I'm in a new environment. I've never been here. All of these things play. And I used to close the curtains so that I didn't have to think about it. Like, the guy can be there, but he's not going to look at me. It's just ridiculous. Like, it really is ridiculous, because the fear is something that hasn't happened. I'm not living for right now. I'm not living for the fact that I feel safe right now that someone else is with me. I'm living for something that will most likely never happen. And that's not living in the now. That's not living in the present. That's creating all of these like kind of crazy stories in our head and that are never going to happen. Or unlikely to happen anyway. So we can change that. And that's what aversion therapy, when somebody, I think I may have said that wrong. When somebody's afraid of something, they have to first if they're afraid of spiders, first they might draw spiders, and then they might look at a spider from a locked room. And then eventually, like for many people, the treatment's successful, they can hold a spider and all of that kind of stuff. So it's training our minds, it's in our minds. We have the power, the capability to change anything that we want to in our minds. So, and that's situations, it's everything. We are, especially in the Western society, I think, I'm going to say the American culture, there's a huge thing, we're helpless, we're victims, psychologists are label makers for insurance companies, and then, because we're so focused on this label, we ignore all of the other issues that are perhaps going on, and it's a bit ridiculous if you ask me, but we're not helpless, we're not victims of life, we're victims of our own mind, and because we're victims of our own mind, we have the power to change it. So that's my little soapbox for this morning. Okay, so if we can create fear, we can uncreate it, because we create it. Even we created, that thing with the guy looking in the window, it's because of the job that I used to work in, it's because of horror movies. So, I created that because I chose to watch horror movies. I chose to be in that profession. I can uncreate it by thinking differently about it. Okay. So, as we get into our little safe space, so let's get into our comfortable seated position or lying position or on a chair or whatever you're doing. Just getting ready to open the mind. And I will evoke the feelings of compassion by reciting the 4 measurables. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free of suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never be dissociated from the supreme happiness, which is without suffering. May they remain in boundless equanimity, free from attachment to close ones and rejection of others. Placing the hands in a comfortable position, either on the sides or on the lap, on the knees. Imagining that we have a nice long spine, so maybe there's a golden thread that's coming up from the top of our head. It's holding us up, keeping us supported. Begin to deepen the breath, inhaling and exhaling through the nose. Because I'm a yoga teacher, I do give that instruction quite a lot, breathing in and out through the nose. If it's really that uncomfortable, that's fine. It's basically just to keep the energy within the body, but we are mostly focusing on the mind, so it's okay if you have to breathe through the mouth. With each inhale, growing a little bit taller, so opening that spine so that it can go into the mind, allowing the space to widen, giving more space in the physical body, and now imagining sitting in an open space in the mental body. And if you have the fear of open spaces, this may be a bit difficult for you, but let's face it. So create a safe, open space, whatever that might look like for you, examining why you're afraid of open places, And then manipulating an open space to allow you to feel comfortable. If your open space is on the sea, as mine is, then imagine bubbling along on a little boat or a raft. Noticing any physical sensations, perhaps from the sun, from rain, from wind. Inhaling any smells that might be in the space from nature. Feeling relaxed, feeling calm. So this is your space. Space where there are no judgments. Nobody is in this space. They don't know what we're thinking, what we're feeling. It's completely safe. And now start to imagine a situation that causes you fear. How does it feel to be afraid? What emotions arise? How does the body and the mind react? Is there tension? Maybe you're even noticing now as you think of the situation, your body tenses, your face kind of wrinkles. How does the mind react? What story does it tell? Are there any thoughts that keep on repeating themselves in my mind in this situation? Things like, I'm going to die, it's going to hurt me. Something like that. And how realistic is this thought or this fear? Was it really dangerous, or did I exaggerate the danger of the situation? If it's dangerous, what can I do to escape it, to stay alive? If the answer is nothing, then accepting it. Accepting the pain will come in whatever way, shape, or form. Accepting a loss may occur. Realizing with this rational thinking that if we can do something about this fear and get out of the situation, we have nothing to worry about, nothing to be afraid of. And if the situation isn't actually dangerous, then why are we worrying? There's no need to fear. Can I do something about it? Yes. No need to fear. Can I do something about it? No. Then why worry and be afraid? Does Is being afraid change the situation or increase the problem? What would the risk be if I thought logically about a situation where it wasn't dangerous and it was irrational? Instead of gripping the feelings of fear and panic coming into the head, which is very difficult in the midst of a situation. This is why if we can sit and be present and sense fear coming or panic coming or anxiety coming or whatever it is, if we sit for silence for just 5 minutes every morning and really listen to the body, we will be amazed at how all of a sudden we can notice when fear and panic is coming on. What are the signs? What are the symptoms? Let's get that logical brain in. Ask yourself those questions. Am I in real danger? Yes or no? Can I escape the danger if I'm in it? Yes or no? What is the point of fear? Maybe imagining yourself in the situation. For example, people who are afraid of public speaking, imagine being in front of a crowd of people. Maybe that evokes feelings of fear already. Maybe you're afraid that you're going to stop, not be able to speak or get the words out of your mouth. Is that a life or death situation? No. May you lose your job? Possibly. There's other jobs. What is the worst that can happen? And with time and with practice, all of these situations, like public speaking, I used to be deathly afraid of it, going and shaking. At the end of my psychology career, I was speaking in national conferences in front of big groups of people. And loved it. So as the practice comes to an end, we're going to pull out the rucksack and open it up. And these feelings of empowerment, these feelings of control over the fear, because, we have fear of the unknown, we have fear that we can't control things. We can control our own mind, and that is the one and only thing we can control in this life. And for me, that's why I do these meditations, because my head, very often in my life, has been a terrible place to be in. But that's the only thing that I can control. And I've been, since doing meditation, I've been in some pretty horrific situations and been in control of my thinking, and it's been fine, okay, bearable. So remembering, I guess the tool to take away is to remembering to get to know our bodies so that we can attack this fear before it becomes irrational and start asking ourselves these questions, these 3 simple questions with a calm and open mind. And if you are suffering from anxiety or panic attacks, I would strongly encourage that you do this meditation for 5 to 10 minutes every morning, 5 minutes even. Panic will arise and maybe become overwhelming, but over time it will dissipate. Placing the rucksack on our backs and walking with tall shoulders, a brave heart, clear and open, relaxed mind, back into the world that we have around us, slowly opening the eyes. Becoming aware of the surroundings in the room. And placing the hands towards the heart center. And finding somebody maybe who's struggling with fear. Or with somebody who needs a bit of compassion. And dedicate this practice, dedicate these, as we say in Buddhism, dedicate the merits to somebody who may need this. The more you give to others, the more you receive from others. To leave you with a quote from Mark Twain, "Do the thing you fear most, and the death of fear is certain." So, thank you very much for coming to meditation.